In the last video, we left off with Hamilcar Barca, angry that Rome had caused embarrassment to Carthage. Holding this anger within his heart and wanting to regain Carthage's reputation as a powerful force in the Mediterranean, Hamilcar set out to Spain in 229 BCE. He brought along with him his two sons, Hannibal and Hasdrubal Barca. The three of them led the expedition of Carthaginian forces, about 26,000 men, to Spain. Some unfortunate events occurred during that expedition, and Hamilcar was somehow killed. What exactly happened is unknown, however, there are two main theories. One is that Hamilcar fell off of his ship, and the other is that he jumped out willingly. Either way, by the time they reached Spain, Hamilcar had died, and the Carthaginians needed a new general. Hasdrubal, Hamilcar's son-in-law, was chosen as the leader, since they thought Hannibal was too young at this point to take on such a responsibility. Hasdrubal's nickname was Hasdrubal the Fair, as he was thought to be pretty attractive and diplomatic. His first priority was to negotiate rather than conquer. Eventually, thanks to Hasdrubal the Fair's diplomacy, the Carthaginians were indeed able to conquer Spain under his command. Through their conquest, the Carthaginians also gained about 24,000 more men, along with one war elephant. At this point, there was no longer a need for Hasdrubal's diplomacy, and Hannibal took over command of the army. He led Carthaginian forces through Gaul, across the Alps, and in 219 BCE, the Carthaginians captured the Italian city of Saguntum. This began a series of attacks by Carthaginians, reinforced by Gallic allies on Italian cities, moving closer and closer to the city of Rome. War was declared between Rome and Carthage in 218 BCE. Upon these attacks by Carthage, the Roman general Quintus Fabius Maximus understood that direct conflict with Carthage would mean sure defeat. He proposed that instead of sending an army directly to fight in a traditional way, they should try a different strategy. This was to attack Hannibal's army and then flee. Attack and then flee. Attack and then flee, over and over again. This would allow the Romans to minimize their losses while still gradually weakening Carthaginian forces. This idea, though, was immediately rejected by the Roman consuls as not only being too cowardly but also too slow. Quintus was removed from command of the army, and that position was taken over by the Roman consuls. These two consuls were Gaius Terentius Varro and Lucius Aemilius Paulus. They led the army to directly confront Hannibal's forces. This direct conflict took place at the Battle of Cannae in 216 BCE. There were 86,000 Roman soldiers and 56,000 Carthaginian soldiers at the battle. The battle looked something like this. The Romans had placed themselves in a traditional Achaeas triplex formation. This had worked for them in the past, but the Carthaginian forces had to make up for their lack in numbers by engaging in a new strategy. Instead of attacking head-on, they pulled back their front line. The Romans, thinking that the Carthaginian forces were running away, charged at them. Hannibal's army then surrounded the Roman forces. The Romans, unprepared for that sort of trickery, were quickly decimated by Hannibal's forces. It's estimated that 50 to 70,000 Roman soldiers were lost in that one battle. This, of course, was an embarrassing defeat for the Romans. Quintus was reinstated as commander of the Roman military, and his strategy of repeatedly attacking Carthaginians and then retreating, slowly wearing them down, was so effective that he earned the agnomen Cunctator, meaning the delayer. This action diverted Hannibal's army away from Rome. At this point, the Roman naval commander Publius Cornelius Scipio brought forth a blockade of ships to cut off Spain from Carthage and mobilized the Roman navy to attack the Carthaginian navy. This prevented Carthage from coming too close to Italy's shores. Scipio's strategy was so famous that he earned the agnomen Africanus. Over time, Scipio's strategy led to the weakening of Carthage's navy, which allowed Roman ships to break through and potentially reach African shores. When Hannibal found out about this, he immediately called off all forces on Italian land and made efforts to return his forces to Carthage. Hannibal and his men were indeed able to return to Carthage in time to protect the city from the Romans, and the two armies met at the Battle of Zama. The Battle of Zama in 201 BCE was the last battle of the Second Punic War. Rome was once again victorious. As in the First War, Carthage and Rome now had to agree on additional terms. First, Carthage had to completely give up their holdings in Spain. Second, Carthage had to surrender its navy. Third, once again, Carthage had to pay for Rome's war expenses, but this time it was 10,000 talents of gold over 50 years. which would be the modern equivalent of $7 to $10 billion. The fourth condition was that Carthage had to remain its own city, one city with no additional territory, and would become a protectorate of Rome. Resulting from this Second Punic War, Rome of course became even more powerful. Carthage was still doing okay, but for now all of their money went to Rome, or to maintaining the city. The Third War wouldn't start until 50 years after this. Additionally, Carthage found a new opponent, the Numidians. They attacked the Numidians pretty regularly. As a result, the Numidians began to support Rome. They attacked Carthage in 193, 182, 162, and 152 BCE. There is a theory that they were encouraged by the Romans to attack Carthage in order to keep Carthage in check and not allow them to get too confident. After some time, Carthage had collected enough surplus of money to pay back Rome, but when they tried to do so, Rome refused their payments in an attempt to keep Carthage under Roman control. Carthage then reinvested that money into their own city and into their own forces. Still, Rome and Carthage were not finished with one another. We will soon find out whether Carthage's ambitions will benefit them or cause them to burn.